2 million tons. That's a lot of baggage. That's crazy. Frankfurt became a little Jumanji. That's insane. Hallöchen. Welcome back to Krautsalat. I am Eric, an American in Germany. We just had a pretty exciting weekend. For the first time, we were able to take Krautsalat out on the road. We went to Frankfurt. I hope you got to see some of those videos. If not, go back and watch them. But last night, we did a bit of sightseeing around the city. Driving home to Hanover today, we were talking about the day and the experience, and we're really starting to love and enjoy this opportunity of going around and seeing things. Seeing and learning more about Germany. This was a very exciting first trip, our first time out. And while driving home to Hanover today, we started talking about this experience a bit more and how cool it is that we're starting this, going to different parts of Germany, learning some different things. And while we were driving, we decided to look up some information, some 10 facts about Frankfurt. We found an awesome, very nice list already compiled from the local.de. This is a cool website, and I'm going to go through that list and break some things down for you and give you some 10 facts about Frankfurt. Here's number 1 about Frankfurt. The first make or break telephone was invented there. This is interesting. So Philip Reis developed this idea for the telephone when, especially for me, growing up in the US, we are taught that Alexander Graham Bell was the one that invented the telephone. But now I find proof that it was in fact Philip Reis in Frankfurt, and Bell even visited him to see his telephone, only to then return home and make his own changes and take credit for the work.
You're an imposter!
That's interesting. At least from my education, Bell is the man that takes credit for inventing the telephone. But now we know Philip Reis in Frankfurt. The first sentence that was transmitted through the phone. Das Pferd frisst keinen Gurkensalat. The horse does not eat the cucumber salad. So merch ideas. Should we make a t-shirt that says that?
Das Pferd frisst keinen Gurkensalat.
Let us know in the comments. And don't forget, we have some existing shirts. The merch link is in the description below. So check that out and see what we've got now. And also don't forget to subscribe. Number 2, throughout the Holy Roman Empire, new kings were elected here in Frankfurt. So the Holy Roman Empire, which starting from like the early Middle Ages, existed for about 1,000 years, 10 centuries, up until the 1800s. This empire occupied most of the modern regions, the modern areas of Germany and Austria and Switzerland, Belgium and the Netherlands. This was quite a big thing. Kings and emperors were crowned there in Frankfurt, and the last one being in 1792. So really not that long ago. I certainly did not know that.
I knew that.
I learned very little of that history in the US. Number 3, the largest inner city forest in Germany. I'm learning that a lot of these cities here have got some form of inner city nature, whether like the parks, the forests. I was told that they call it the green lung. They understand that having these trees and this natural life within these densely populated cities really brings life in. I agree with that. Like that's totally true. I've lived in some places that are just 99% all concrete, and it's horrible. And I think this is one thing that I really appreciate here, and I can feel it. The apparent concept of this green lung idea is to bring that life and that air in and basically circulate it through the city. This is something that I've heard about before, and it's quite proven that the existence of the trees within the cities keep the temperatures lower because the air's moving through. Like it creates circulation, and this is very, very much appreciated. Number 4, in English, Frankfurt means the Ford of Franks, going back to the Holy Roman Empire, the Emperor Charlemagne. I have heard this name before, now that I know in the late 700s, he built a settlement there. This was the name that he gave it. There's proof of settlements there before Charlemagne came in, but I guess with his authority and power and the fact that he named it, he was able to build it up to the Frankfurt that we have now. Number 5. Now this is related to the city skyline. This is really cool. As we were driving and I saw this skyline for the first time, it was the closest thing that I have seen on such a grand scale. The skyline looks more American. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I liked seeing it. It made me excited. Maybe even a little bit of feeling at home, but that home being, something that felt recognizable. I will explain this. 14 of the 15 tallest skyscrapers that exist here in Germany are in Frankfurt. And you see this in the skyline. Personally, I love little things like this. Like I grew up in a small town in northern Wisconsin, and skylines were not a thing. Like, I think of Chicago. When I think of a skyline, Chicago is the first one that I think of. Also, notably Manhattan, and I learned something. The Frankfurters call their skyline Mainhattan because of the River Main that it sits on. Number 6 is about the Opera House, but the fact that it's referred to as a beautiful ruin. I think this is interesting. One of Germany's most beautiful ruins. It seems a little bit opposite of what I would have expected. I learned that most of the Opera House was destroyed in the war, as was the majority of Frankfurt. Post-war, there was a lot of rebuilding, but they let this sit for a while, and they developed some appreciation just for the beauty of the ruin. I like that. That's kind of cool. Frankfurt, with all of its modern diversity, has such a different feel. As much as I really enjoy and love and appreciate the German feel, I found it very interesting to go to such a city that's within Germany and have it feel so much different. Each city has its own different feel, and we will get to that in future episodes. So on that note, subscribe and stick with me, because we're going to go and see all we can around Germany. Every city's got its own different vibe, different feeling, and this modern diversity that defines Frankfurt is very immediately felt. And that leads me into number 7. Number 7, more than 1 out of 4 Frankfurters are foreign. I think this comes in from this centralized hub. This is where I came in to Germany most of the time from the US when I was coming to visit. There's so much international travel, you have all the banks, everything, and it leaves its mark. And that's totally fine. Like, that's Frankfurt's identity. You can't change it. It just keeps growing. Number 8 is a bit of a silly fun fact. After the war, the animals from the zoo all escaped and were wandering the streets. It was like Frankfurt became a little Jumanji. It was in 1944 that Frankfurt was being bombed, And like the zookeepers had basically the animals in safer buildings, but some of these buildings were destroyed from the bombs. Hopefully the animals were safe, but many of them were able to get out and roam free around the city. So I can imagine with all these animals roaming and running around the streets, it was a very funny sight in the middle of such a hard time. Number 9, one of Germany's most world-known Dichter und Denker, Goethe. I think most people are familiar with Faust and many of his other writings, but in 1749, he was born in Frankfurt. Number 10, Frankfurt's got this massive international airport, Germany's largest airport, Europe's 4th largest airport, but the baggage system is 67 kilometers long. These bags are taking a journey within a journey. Like that's insane. This is funny. This is more of a fun fact. The length of the baggage system is about 1.5 marathons. The airport employs over 75,000 people, yearly over 60 million travelers. That's crazy. 460,000 flights. It handles over 2 million tons of luggage. That's a lot of baggage. With all of that luggage being tossed around, I wonder how many things are broken. Because that's a lot of bags being tossed. You know these guys are not handling all of these safely, but they're professionals, so I assume that they are. Krautsalat in Frankfurt. That was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to going and seeing other places, other cities. I hope you stick with us and see where we go. And who knows, like, we will change this format a lot. Like, we will make some lists when we find some interesting things, but I want to start doing something a little bit different with each city, make these unique. So stick with me, subscribe, follow on Instagram and Facebook, see where we go next, see where we go in the future, and I think it's that time of day. Feierabend.